wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
And that starts with our show and our means of taking care of you, which is by entertaining you. And that involves us telling you all the reasons why you decided to attend. I'm sure you know them well. But now it's time to turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Spotlight on the Multiverse. Yes, I am Joe Compton, and I'm super excited about this show. As anybody who's ever watched this show knows, I'm a sucker for the Learn Track, and I happen to have one of its beautiful representatives here today to talk a little bit about it. He is Mr. Kenneth Broome. Sir, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth Broome Jr. I am an educator, a writer, editor. I'm very much into speculative fiction, love horror. Horror is my favorite genre.
Nice.
Constantly watching horror movies all the time. even during Christmas, I'm watching horror movies. But yeah. So
there's some really good Christmas horror movies. People can't sleep on those. I think there's some good ones.
There are indeed. And I guess the last thing is I'm the new Learn Track director. So, yeah.
And Rhonda's here to support us there.
And the assistant director.
Yeah, she is who I talked to last year about the Learn Track. So I'm really excited to have you. For people who don't know, maybe this is their first multiverse and their first time experiencing multiverse. Talk a little bit about what the Learn Track is, because I think it's a vital heartbeat to what is different about multiverse in a lot of respects.
Okay, of course. So it is core. The Learn Track is just basically being able to talk about speculative fiction with this kind of academic lean, but not so much that you kind of gate it off from everybody at the con. So anybody can come and understand and talk about the things that we're talking about. And a lot of the topics are still based around things that a lot of people like, such as last year, Darren Bush, who is now the assistant director for science fiction, talked about the being able to, I guess, understand the success rate of rolling D20s in D&D. And everybody sees to love and learning D&D. So why not talk about it? So
there's always some kind of popular cryptid aspect to the Learn Track as well. There's usually like a monster, like how monsters are real kind of idea, or something to that effect.
Yeah, last year we did a panel called Define Monster, which is basically a panel in which our panelists tried to figure out like who and what can we call a monster, and the idea of a monster versus a villain and things like that.
So how did you get involved with the Learn Track? What was it about the Learn Track that made you kind of say, I want to take this and run with it?
So I first got invited to Multiverse back in 2019 by my best friend, Mr. M. Haynes, who is the fantasy track director.
Yeah.
And Rhonda saw my presentation, was like, yeah, I want you on there. And I've been on the learn track ever since. And it was last year. She had a opening with the AD and was like, hey, do you want, I remember her email title. It said, hey, you want to come play on the learn track with me? And I was like, yeah. So she brought me on last year as her assistant director. And this year we decided to switch.
Mm-hmm. I love that, by the way. I think that's healthy. I think it's really cool, and it gives different perspective. Even though the both of you have been involved with the Learn Track for the last couple of years, it is nice to see. I think it's one of those things about academia too that I think is being reflected in what your decision was to switch this year, and that is you grow in academia. The idea is you grow from what you're doing, right? And that's kind of what this is. This is kind of doing a little bit. You guys are growing, and perspectives also. It's nice to have different perspectives and shifts in academia too, because I think the conversations in academia are usually they're not one-sided. They're usually tenfolded.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Rhonda wanted someone else, wanted perspective, excuse me, from someone else. So she's like, hey, you take the reins this year. And I was like, cool. And nothing's really changing in the we work. We still sent out a CFP and got a lot of responses for that. So we have a lot of presentations from people talking about Star Wars fandom, post-apocalyptic Shakespeare, art during the Black Death Plague. Like it's really good stuff coming up.
And Rhonda says that you are brilliant, and you're very welcome, Rhonda. Of course, I will.
Thank you.
And Mr. Haynes says hello. So does Anita. Hi, welcome all.
Hello.
Yeah, I am. That's cool. I love it. What do you remember the first time you presented at the Learn Track?
I do.
Tell everybody a little bit about that, because it was an interesting subject, if I'm not mistaken.
So the first year I presented on this idea of monsters, not necessarily monsters being our friends, but what do monsters actually mean? Such as, what do vampires actually mean? What do werewolves actually mean? So on and so forth. I also remember it was funny because I think the day before I had my presentation, Rhonda emailed me and asked me did I want a full 45-minute presentation, because the other person had to drop out. And at the time I was like, no, because I was really nervous and I wasn't really used to like presenting. And so it just so happens when I did my presentation, it ended up being 45 minutes anyway. Because I do my presentations like I do presentations in class. I like to show clips that show examples of the things I'm talking about. So when I talked about the ideas of werewolves being a representation of our primal anger, and the fact that when werewolves transform, it is usually because they are angry or upset about something. So I showed a lot of clips of, hey, do you see how aggressive it looks when werewolves change? This is the idea of when we talk about you get so angry you black out. It's because you're becoming something else. You're transforming into this primal bestial kind of self, and that is the representation of the werewolf. So I had to show examples, and I had to cut some stuff short because I kept showing so many clips and talking about, hey, see what you're seeing here? This is it.
I love it. And then, so tell us a little bit about your thought process in what you're seeing being presented this year. Is there a little preview you can give us, a little something you can tell us a little bit about that you're seeing that you're really excited about?
I'm excited about everything as always, because like I said, we have several different presentations coming. And I think the thing I am the most happy about, or the most looking forward to, is something that Rhonda talked about wanting to do, which is having more college students. And this year we're going to have 3 panels that are nothing but college students.
Oh, cool.
So I am very, very excited about that. And I want to, of course, thank Mr. once again, best friend M. Haynes for helping us get those college students in, and definitely looking forward to hopefully growing and getting more college students or high school students, middle school students that are willing to present and want to present.
I'm sure you've read their presentations. So are you surprised by anything they're saying, or were you kind of expecting what they gave you?
Because their teacher is Marcus, I knew kind of what to expect, and I knew they were going to be good. Because one thing about Marcus ain't putting his name on nothing bad. So I knew coming in when I saw their presentations popping up, I was like, okay, these are all going to be great.
Yeah, Marcus says, no problem. It's only the start of great things.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that idea. I think oftentimes the youth of today is voiceless in a lot of respects, and I don't think that should necessarily be the case. I think that's why they've gravitated towards social media, is because their voice gets heard in social media. But
Right.
I think also, having conversations in an intellectual setting, in a safe environment too, I think does nothing but foster their education and make them excited about education.
Definitely. I try and make sure that everyone feels safe and welcome in my classroom. And we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. I go off on tangents with my students when they ask me questions about the things we're talking about. I will just go off on a tangent. It's like giving them examples of the things they're asking, and now we're no longer on the lesson I had for the day, because I've allowed you to take me down this road and talk about something else. But it's all they feel safe to ask the questions, and I love that.
I approached this with Rhonda last year, and I'll approach it with you as well. Multiverse is a different animal as far as how classrooms go and how presentations go and how panels go at Multiverse. There is a certain kind of unwritten rule at Multiverse where it is not a panel of experts on one table. It's a panel of people talking about a subject matter within a room. And even outside of the room, it even kind of fosters outside of the room a little bit. Sometimes after the panel is officially over, it continues on for a few minutes after. And with the Learn track, it's a little bit more unique because it is more of an academia aspect of it, where one person or a couple people are giving a presentation and then talking about that. But are you looking at the presentations and letting people who have those presentations know that you're about to step into a different kind of universe with this, and that there will be interaction amongst the group, because that happens whether they want it to happen or not, right? So
right. The majority of the people who will be presenting have all had some type of either conference background or teacher background, so they're pretty well versed in knowing that they're going to be talking after the presentations are over. And I know that once again Marcus is prepping his students for what they're going to walk into.
Yeah, that would have probably been a good question for Marcus.
Right. But I know that he's prepping them for what they're about to walk into.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think that when it comes to those conversations that happen after, first of all, you love the fact that there's a conversation going on in the room while things are going.
It kind of validates what you were talking about,
right? But you love it even more that it continues, because it shows that people really, really want to talk about this. I remember last year we had a presentation on Star Wars being a British franchise, in which the presenter was talking about how Britain claims certain movies depending on what happens in them as being, this is actually a British movie. And I had to ask certain movies, like, hey, is this a British movie? Like, would this count? How did you come up with, Britain has a whole list of movies that technically are what we would think of as American or made in America that they claim as British films because they fit a criteria that they came up with. And that is a great conversation. Also, Beck Duffield, who does a lot of mental health presentations, a lot of people will talk to her after the presentations about mental health issues that she presented. So we have a lot of people who have those great conversations after the presentation is over.
How about during the presentation? Are you welcoming people to speak up during the presentation, or do you have kind of a rule that let's let the presenter do the presentation and then have people kind of talk after the fact?
No, we try to welcome everyone to talk when they want to talk. Now, it is up to the presenter. Maybe the presenter feels a little more comfortable waiting until after their presentation is over to take questions. But for the most part, you know, if someone has a question, the presenter is willing to take it, go right ahead. We really want you to talk about it, especially when we have panels. So this year, I had to have a panel on Sinners. I have to. That movie, I have not stopped listening to that soundtrack since I got home from seeing the movie when it first came out. So I had to have a panel on it.
I bought it the moment it got on Amazon too. I was like, I didn't care about the $25. I'm like, you know what, take it.
See, here's the thing: we are moving into a world where they want to digitalize everything. So I am waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray so I can get the physical copy, so you can never take it away from me.
Well, I must have. You'll get some commentary with the Blu-ray,
right?
So that will be stellar. That would be something that I think because there's some things in there as a filmmaker that I'm blown away by, just technically, we're not just talking about the movie in the context, which is beyond talking about. It's an amazing conversation to have, but technically there's shots in there, there's things that they do with the lighting and the way that they flash back and flash forward, you know, those things that they do in those technical aspects. I am umpteenth curious about how they pulled that off. There's a moment in the very beginning when they move from one store to another store within the town, and it is one continuous shot over the shoulder that goes in front of it's almost like a 360 camera, and it is. I'm assuming that's what it was, and it was on a swivel, and they moved it around. But that to do that technically, people don't understand how flawless that particular shot was, and to do that, I would imagine they probably spent a couple days trying to perfect that. And I would love to hear that story of how they did that, because that is, to me, that blew me away the moment I saw that shot. That's probably one of the greatest shots I've ever seen in a movie. So.
Oh, great. There's so much to talk about.
There is, and I contend it's not just a horror movie on top of that. So
right.
See, we're already talking about it, right?
See? And that's what we love about conversations in Multiverse. Like you get into what you're talking about.
Beyond Sinners, though, is there some horror films that you've been impressed by lately that you kind of want to get out there in the world and make people see?
Not really. When it comes to horror movies, you have to really be something unique for me to want to see it. Because, like I tell my students all the time, a lot of horror movies now are just a bunch of jump scares, and because I watch so many, I know what you're telegraphing to me.
Yeah,
that's why I like older atmospheric horror movies where, you know, it's just one person, some bad effects that were good for the time, but you build from that, and I like those more. One of my favorite horror movies is a campy horror movie called Return of the Living Dead, where they're in the warehouse, which I know that they would hate it because it's not really that good, but it's great for me. It's something I loved when I was a child. Now I will say I am interested in seeing 28 Years Later. Because even when I saw 28 Days, I was like, oh, what if they do a 28 weeks? They did 28 weeks. Oh, are they going to do 28 months? 20? Like, I was ready for those sequels. So I do want to see 28 Years Later and see what that one is, see what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Danny Boyle is something else with those movies. So
Hmm.
I really and it's a different take on the zombie genre, which got
Right.
tired really fast. So
Yeah.
uh, that's awesome. Beyond school and everything, what are you doing? Are you doing anything creative that you want to talk about, like writing wise, or anything that you're into right now?
Um, I mostly work as an editor behind the scenes for a website called BlackNerdProblems.
Uh
So
huh.
that's the thing I do most of the time. I am writing. I am hoping to finish a short story for um, Ink Publishing to go
Okay.
in before the 30th.
Uh huh.
I was in their anthology last year as well, and I'm hoping to get one in for this year. But I'm
Nice.
still working on it. But the 30th, I got 7 days to get it done.
The
7 days to get it done.
corporeal one, was that the one you were in last year? Which one were you in
No,
last year?
I was in Yeah, Y'all Queer.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Awesome. The LGBTQ one.
Hmm.
Nice. That's awesome. Uh, yeah, Kevin's amazing. What he does is what they do and put those things out there is pretty cool. So
Hmm.
awesome, man. So as far as the learn track goes, um, you guys have a full slate going through the entire weekend. Tell everybody, if they want to get involved with the learn track next year. Obviously this year you've already filled the slate, you've already put it out, but
Yeah.
you're is there certain things you're looking for that you haven't seen yet that you would be interested in presenting at the learning track maybe next year?
I would probably say no, mostly because we want you to bring whatever it is that you want to bring,
Mm,
and we'll make it fit. We will make it work, because we want people to be as authentic to themselves. Like I said, my students, my papers, the papers I give them or the topics I give them are open enough that they can interject what they want or how they understand it.
mm,
Um, there's this great example I always think about. I had a student when I was teaching at this school in North Georgia. He took me for English 1101. He couldn't get me for English 1102, but I saw him one day. Asked him how his class was going. He said it was kind of boring. And he was like, "Oh, the teacher wants us to write this paper on water." And I was like, "Why is it boring?" I was like, "Don't you like Avatar: The Last Airbender?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, just write a paper on why the water benders are the best benders in Avatar." And he was like, "I wish I could do that." But he was like, she wants us to write like a water pollution. I was like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, we want you to bring your authentic self to the learn track and talk about what it is that you want to talk about, and we will make it work.
So, what are the specs for presentations? What do you require for somebody to make a presentation for you?
So we are also introducing panels this year for people to present panels as well.
Hmm.
So presentations can be anywhere from 15, 25, 45 minutes. Whatever you want to be on, and
Hmm.
panels have to be at least 45 minutes. um, there are two things you can do when it comes to panels. Either you can come with your entire panel already set up, which is one of the things that Marcus has done for us with his students. He has their panels already set up, so we just put them where we're going to put them.
Hmm.
Or you can give us a panel topic, and we can put it on the survey and see if anybody wants to do it. And you can decide if you want to be the moderator of that panel, or if you want anybody else that says that they want to be on the panel, let them be the moderator. So you could also do that. But if you want to present a panel, it has to be at least 45 minutes. So that's the kind of difference, that you don't have a time. There's no time option for that one. It's only 45 minutes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that people might pick it, which I'm pretty sure people will, because I have never seen any of our panels not have people that want to be on them. And like I said, with this centers panel that we're going to have this year, I already know people. So many people are going to want to be on
Yeah, it's gonna be packed.
it. Right.
Which is good. I mean, that's what we want. We
Mhm.
want engaging conversations at Multiverse that a lot of people can engage in and everybody can talk about. Right. That's
Right.
the whole idea of it. Right. Uh, as far as like presentations go and things of that nature, have you guys figured out how they're going to roll? Have you scheduled everything ahead of time and kind of figured out, you know, how you're going to kind of lay everything out? Is there going to be like a day of like horror stuff and things of that nature, or are you going to kind of just fill the time slots as they're appropriated?
So technically, we've already written the schedule and know where we want things to go. The only issue is that we have to go through the whole planning with the other tracks.
Yeah.
So deciding, because a lot of people who are presenting on our track are also presenting or are also guests
Yeah.
who
Sure.
who need to kind of make everything fit for
Yeah.
them as well. So things may change depending on what needs to fit where.
Are you there's been a rumbling of collaboration this year. I mean, obviously you have Marcus helping you with the student aspect of things, but
Mhm.
are you collaborating with any other tracks this year, or is that something that you guys would think about in the future?
It's always something that we are thinking about, but we are collaborating this year with Playtrack with Sean.
Nice.
But once again, this is because of Marcus. But he has a video games and society class, so that is going to be a panel that we have. I'm pretty sure on Friday. It is going to be. It falls under us, but we're going to present it in the play track room, which literally is around the corner from us. So instead of being in our room, we're just going to shift over there, but it's still going to kind of be presented as a learn panel.
Are you presenting this year, Kenneth?
No, we have so many people and so many panels that I know around that have to present this year. Even I have a topic. Trust me, I had the topic ready to go. But then I saw, hey, we got all this. I saved mine for a year where maybe we may need it. So,
or come here and do it here. We're open to having it here if you want to do it. We would love to have you. We would love to have you do it.
Oh, where?
Let's talk. Let's talk.
Let's
talk after this and figure that out, because I think that would be awesome to have you present something here and show us what the Learn Track's all about, because I think you're the guy to do that. So I think that would be awesome.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you anyway for joining me and coming and talk to me today and telling everybody about the Learn Track and everything that is going on there. And tell everybody where they can find out if they want to reach out to you and talk to you about anything. Where can they find you, and how can they find you?
All right. So you can mostly find me. Most of the stuff that I've written is on BlackNerdProblems. So just go there and look for my name. You'll see it there. If you want to get involved with the Learn Track, the Learn Track email is multiverselearn@gmail.com. I am pretty sure I should check that. I don't have it in front of me to check that, but you can also go to the Multiverse website and connect with me there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir, for joining us. So really appreciate it. And we're gonna step out for just a second here and one more time remind you about things that you need to be aware of at Multiverse and some deadlines coming up. And then I'm going to bring on Mr. Shakir Rashaan right after that. So thank you, Kenneth. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
As we turn the spotlight on the Multiverse convention in October, we have breaking news. It went out! That's right, if you haven't checked your inbox lately, you might want to, because the opportunity to get a table at the coveted Authors Alley this year grows increasingly more difficult by the minute. The Authors Alley, sponsored by Falstaff Books, provides authors a chance to sell their books and swag at a dedicated table that funnels throughout the halls of the convention into the dealer hall, which also is another space you can sell out, and also has limited space. So, what are you waiting for? Go sign up now. Go get the link, sign up, and make sure that you're able to be part of the Multiverse Convention in October, selling what we all came to see, your wonderful art. As we count down to the Multiverse Convention, one of the many opportunities is a chance to show your own artwork. Applications for the 2025 Multiverse Art Show are now open. Please note that Multiverse does not allow the sale of AI/ML-generated images in the art show. That space exists for display and sale of art created by human artists. They do allow approved artists to display and sell original art created with the aid of digital programs, e.g. Procreate or Illustrator. The Multiverse Art Show is a juried exhibition showcasing some of the best genre-related artists and artwork anywhere. They believe that great art is an essential part of fandom, and believe artists should be celebrated for their contributions in a fun exposition environment that fosters connection with genre fans. The display space, the panel fees, the commission, the auction format, the quick sale, Sunday sales, print sales, awards, sales logistics, and how to apply are all on the Multiverse website. Artists, including those displayed in the art show, may also sell prints of their work or similar products at a dealer hall table. If you're interested in applying for a dealer hall table, you can click on a different link to learn about how to get a table at the dealer hall. Artists participating in the art show will be given preferences for those tables. So show off your art and come and join us for another great Multiverse convention. We'll see you there. That's the last time I'm going to mention any of those things. You got to go do it now if you haven't already, because I'm telling you, space is probably already gone, but you never know. So get in there, everybody. If you're going to be at Multiverse and you want to sell something, that's it. That's the opportunity of a lifetime. Go do it. Do it now, because that, do it after the show, but do it today. All right. Hello, Shakir. It's nice to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
Good. Welcome. And tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do.
Well, I am, as has been advertised, I am a conjurer of worlds, a sorcerer, myth, legend, prototype, all that stuff. I'm a hybrid author. I've been traditionally published, and I also indie publish as well. I've been published with Simon & Schuster, and currently will be published by Kensington up next year. I've got a few projects with them that I'll be working with as far as that is. I've been in the game for between self-publishing and traditional publishing since 2009. So this is year 16 for me. So I've been around for a good little minute. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I'm a multi-genre writer. I don't stick to one genre per se. Whatever hits me, that's usually what I try to kind of dig into and kind of go from there. At that point, right now, I'm in my fantasy bag. I'm dealing with both YA, and then I'm doing I'm working on an adult fantasy as well that I'm hoping to pitch soon.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love multi-genre writing. I think it's an impressive skill set. On top of that, how many multiverses is this for you?
This will be my very first one.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
So
I love having first timers. What made you come and decide to do multiverse this year?
Well, the genre that I'm currently working in, as far as the fantasy genre that I'm into at this particular moment, I've been friends with one of the track presenters as far as that is. So she's been kind of getting me, trying to kind of push and edge me in into everything, and I'm like, okay, fine, let me see if I can get in this year, because the schedule's just never lined up, and this year they just happened to do so. So nice. I put my application in, and I was fortunately selected.
I'm going to tell you right now, once you're in, it's like being in the mafia. Once you're in the family, you never get out. So you're gonna want to come every year after this. It is contagious, let me tell you.
Indeed.
That's awesome. So I imagine you probably got this 30-page survey that just went out about the tracks and everything like that.
Still trying to work through it to see where I'm at and what I want to do and all that. Yeah, that's a lot. I knew it was a lot, but that's a lot.
And
wow,
and Multiverse makes no apologies about that. That they know what it is. They know how
oh,
it's
yeah,
going to go,
absolutely.
and yeah, they're very. It's very tongue in cheek, and it's one of those insider jokes that we have. That yeah, you're about to spend a day trying to pick some things to do.
Oh, absolutely. I may have to go back through it tomorrow and double check. I know it was some things I did see and all that other, but I just want to be absolutely certain before the deadline kicks.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Was there anything that really spoke to you that you were like, oh, I hope I hope I get this, because now's the time, because the people
Well,
who pick these, they're watching, so
I'm sure. The obviously the ones that basically speak to Black fantasy.
mm,
Those are the ones that really kind of are near and dear to me more than
hmm
anything else. Specifically, the fact that my kids are my main characters are teenage boys.
hmm
So considering that, outside of what Ladarian and Blerd the Root has been able to accomplish, there's not a lot of boys that are out there in the YA and upper YA space. There are plenty of them inside of the middle grade, and
yeah,
that's a beautiful thing as far as that is. But once those kids age out and they get into high school, there's nothing for them.
nice. I love that. And it's about a basketball star, right? One of your it's
The
about
one that the one that just released was my teenage phenom. That would be Trey. He is dealing with some things that is separate from Yasir, my other kid that I'll be releasing later on in October.
uh,
Yeah, the one that I'm dealing with right now, Trey, he's got a lot to kind of sort through. Not of his own fault, unfortunately. These are unfortunately this is sins of the father. That he's happy to kind of sort through and kind of help correct in a lot of instances. But it does deal in Faustian lore, as far as those types of deals are concerned. It's part of a larger universe that I started with a new adult book that I wrote some years ago called The Devil's All American. And
mhm.
that one was dealing with a college phenom who actually did take the deal personally and had to find a way to get out of it without, giving up what he had to give up.
That sounds awesome. Is it a futuristic? Does it take place in the future? Or is it urban?
No, it's
More urban?
definitely real. It is real time.
Okay,
It's definitely
so
real.
so that brings up my question about: are you dealing with because in certain things in basketball, there's been a shift, especially with young children and young
Mhm.
kids with NIL. I'm wondering
Right.
if that comes up in any of your stories. Have you?
I actually did deal with that. I had no choice in the matter because I'm like when it came to because I've got a lot of youngsters that I've mentored over the years and things of that nature. Ball is life for me. So I've had some kids that I've either mentored or have seen in person, had conversations with at my old high school here in Atlanta and that type of thing, and
Mm,
some other high schools in the city. And I just kind of had conversations with them as far as what they have to deal with, especially this past year or so, with the
mm,
whole NIL constraints, what they can do, what they can't do, what's been allowed, all of the things as far as that is, and then seeing some of these kids that have already gone and really become independently wealthy in and of
yeah,
themselves because of these deals before they even sign on the dotted line to play for college.
yeah.
So that's a lot to consider at this point. So that did come into play as a side a subplot.
I love that. I love that you can incorporate things like that, because there is a certain there's authenticity is key in a lot of stories, but when you're representing who you are, I think authenticity matters more. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, everything that the amount of research and the amount of conversations that I normally have before I even put pen to paper
Mm,
is, it takes longer for me to actually do the research than it actually does the writing. Only because of the fact that I need to make sure that I get it right as best as I can. Obviously, I'm not going to get it all, but I'll get as much as I can.
that's awesome. I love it. So you're on a fantasy bender right now. What is it about fantasy that you like that you didn't expect it that is given you?
As a reader, it gave me the escapism from a lot that I was either going through with school, going through with um, technically a derailed basketball career of my own, as far as that is, and just learning how to figure out how to pivot from what I thought was supposed to be plan A. And, all of those things, as far as that was part of the reason why the Devil's All American came into existence in and of itself, because it gave me the opportunity to kind of look inside myself and say, okay, if I was really his age and that was really put in front of me, would I say yes or no? And that was really where that whole arc just started. And then from there, after I finished with that book, it took me a minute to actually get into the Phenom Chronicles as far as writing a deal inked in blood itself. I had some other iterations of it, but it just didn't feel right. So as I was trying to kind of get to where we are now, it finally felt right. Everything just kind of fell in place.
So it's interesting because the evolution of a writer is a very interesting thing, because you often hear like writers talk about how they were born to write, that they've been writing since they were little and things like that. But you had aspirations. You were going to a major college. You had aspirations of being a basketball player at some point, maybe, looking at the pros even and down the line. When did writing come into play for you? Was it always an integral part of who you were, or was that something that you gravitated toward?
In some form, yes. I actually started as a youngster. My grandfather and I had this thing about doing oral storytelling, which is, obviously from a cultural perspective, that's where a lot of the best stories come from for the most part.
Some barbershop conversations, I would imagine.
Yeah, barbershop conversations, fireside chats, things of that nature. Stuff that happens during the summer when you ain't got nothing better to do, all of those things. So he and I had a thing where he was the one that read to me the most when I was learning how to really figure things out as far as English language, all that stuff. And eventually it turned into, from him reading to me reading to him. And then as I was reading the different stories and all that other good stuff, to let them tell it from me, the way it was told to me, I just started making stuff up as I went along. Even though it was the book that I was reading, I was just making it up. So he was like, okay, well, let's do this. we're gonna put this book down, and just off the top of your head, just tell me something. And it just kind of kicked in from there.
That's awesome. I love that. And when did you feel like you were ready to put it on paper? When was that an immediate aspect, or was that something you visited long after?
That was, well, after a while, it's like you still have to kind of learn the whole syntax of it all, and the nuts and bolts and that type of thing. And I didn't really get severely into it until high school. Once I was really in there, and I had English teachers that really kind of saw some of the wordplay and all of those things as far as that was. And then there was a short story contest. I can't remember exactly whether it was my freshman year or sophomore year in high school. And one of my English teachers just put it in just because she liked what she liked. And, it got its own recognition for a few things. And she was like, well, this might be something you might want to kind of play with. If not anything else, at least as a career after, sort of a second life, if you want to say. So in the back of my mind, that's what it was pretty much that. It was like plan A was going to be what plan A was going to be. And plan B would be, leveraging that celebrity into putting in the work.
Nice. How important is it for you to tell the perspective that the POC perspective? How important is that for you in terms of what you write?
Because I never got a chance to see it when I was growing up. that's really what it is at the end of the day. I wanted to put my voices in with the rest that were able to. Once the gates were taken off of the hinges, I guess is the best way that I can explain it. The minute that we were able to begin self-publishing, the way that when we were able to kind of, use God, what was it back then? To use Lulu and originally it was Create Space before it became KDP. And doing all of those things back then to be able to just put it out in the world on our own, as opposed to worrying about gatekeepers and whether or not they feel like it was good enough to put out there in the world, or if it would be marketable enough, or if it would make enough money and all that other stuff. And the fact that we finally were able to kind of get into that vein and be able to do our own and put our own out there and get other people to see what we were doing, and eventually get to the point where it would be popular enough where enough people could kind of start pushing it out on their own, as far as word of mouth and all of those things. So that was really the turning point for me more than anything else. It's just that I read fantasy when I was growing up, but all of the fantasy that I've ever read had me nowhere involved in the conversation.
So I saw this quote. It's attributed to you via Google. So if it doesn't belong to you, that's I apologize. But I just found it. Do you know which one I'm going to talk about?
I'm not absolutely sure. It's like 3 or 4 of them out there at this point.
Okay.
Who knows?
This is the quote. Every secret of a writer's soul, every experience of his life, every quality of his mind is written large in his works.
Virginia Woolf. That is not mine.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, that sounded a little old school for.
Yeah, that was a Virginia Woolf quote. That's actually been the most recent one that I've ever used. I've also used from Pope John, from Pope John Paul. That's a nod to my Catholic upbringing, as far as that was. So more than likely, it's the one that you may have read, and I think I may have said it wrong. The one that you read just now is probably the one from the Pope, from the former Pope.
Okay. That's awesome. I love that quote.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out beautifully when I needed to kind of understand how I wanted to present myself to the world in a manner of speaking. Like, not necessarily that it would take me seriously or anything like that, but it just felt right. More than anything else. That's all I can really explain to people.
No,
it's like,
I totally
as the quotes come, it's just, that's what it is.
So, are you going to be selling at Multiverse? Is that something you're going to be doing? Has your publisher allowed you to sell some books?
I know, yes, I am looking to probably like I said, considering it's the fantasy and speculative fiction part as far as this particular conference is concerned. That's the one I'm literally looking to see about Sageborn and A Deal Inked in Blood. Those two specifically to put out.
Have you been out there and sold books at cons before?
Yeah, I just got done with one this past weekend.
Oh, cool. Which one were you at?
It was an event called Indie Love Atlanta.
Sure.
It was strictly, that was strictly for I won't say strictly for, but it caters to Black readers specifically. And I have like I said, because I'm a multi-genre writer, I could easily put out everything that was available in my catalog and just let everybody kind of pick and choose what they wanted.
I imagine there's some power in that. I would imagine you can do a lot of things, probably go to a lot more cons and different cons than most people, because you do have something to offer each kind of aspect of a con.
Yeah, I've been learning over the last few years, because for a time I wasn't really able to get out there because I've had other life events that kind of took me out of the space of wanting to write and wanting to be in those spaces for the most part. But what I've been trying to learn as of recently is to, as the ones that I basically curate the type of conferences that I want to appeal to, because there are certain books that are not appropriate for certain types of conferences. There are others that my fantasy books would not fit because of the type of reader that they cater to.
Sure.
I've got romantic suspense books. I've got thrillers. I've got I do have some romances as far as that is, but not as much as those that would be sitting with me. They would have a more extensive collection because that's their primary focus. It's not mine.
What did you publish with Simon & Schuster? What genre was it?
I actually started with Simon & Schuster. The first book series that I did with them was an erotica series.
Wow.
So like I said, there are certain books that would not go well in certain conferences. So yeah, so
going in the side door with Simon & Schuster.
Yeah, that part right there. But yeah, so that was the first series, and then after that, I actually did an erotic mystery series as a second book series. As far as those particular books are concerned, and then from there, I actually attained an agent after the fact. Because I had an agent when I dealt with Simon & Schuster.
Sure.
But then she went and struck a deal with Kensington to create her own imprint under the Kensington umbrella. So I had to leave her and strike a deal with another agent who took me in the direction that I'm in right now in terms of doing the romantic suspense books, doing the thrillers, doing the doing all of those things as far as that was. Going into the fantasy was strictly my idea because that was something that was a full circle moment for me, because honestly speaking, that really was the first thing that I had originally thought I wanted to put out first. And yeah, life happens when you're making plans. So
it's fascinating to me that that's how you got into traditional publishing, because oftentimes you hear, if you're in a niche genre like that, or a genre in which is not palatable it has to be sold in a certain way, right? It's not like Amazon frowns upon certain eroticas and things of that nature too, right? And so there's a delicacy to that aspect of that genre. So it's interesting that Simon & Schuster got involved with that for you, and I have to imagine that must have been a really interesting experience.
Well, I mean, considering that was 12, 13 years ago, give or take, that was circa 2012, 2013.
I mean, that's even more taboo, I would imagine.
Yeah, so not really. I think
really?
what kind of broke the floodgates with regard to that was my publisher at the time was known for her erotica books. So going through her imprint under Simon & Schuster made it easier in that regard. Because I mean, my books were sold everywhere at the time. Yeah. I mean, I was in Walmart, I was in Target, I was in grocery stores. I mean, so you can imagine the type of covers that you probably have already seen in my collection, sitting in the grocery store line while you're going and putting your groceries on the conveyor belt, and there's my book sitting right there staring you in the face. And I'm going, that was a different time back then. Now, now it's like that cover would probably have folks losing their ever-loving minds more than anything else. So, but that was kind of the loophole back then. And then of course, at the time, I actually wrote this series that Zane eventually published for me, or published with me. I actually wrote that one in 2009. By the time we got to repackaging and putting the new covers on and polishing up the story and that type of thing, was the same. It was around the same amount of time. It was around the same time as when 50 Shades of Grey came out.
Okay.
And that became the excuse of, well, if you're going to put them out, you good with what we doing too. Otherwise, we got a conversation that we got to have, and you're not going to like it. And Simon & Schuster was funny for that in some
Yeah.
instances, because again, they may have had others that had the same type of material,
Yeah.
and Barnes and Noble and Walmart may have balked if it wasn't for 50 Shades of Grey. So in that regard, yeah, we can kind of give them credit in the sense that they were able to kind of break through that glass ceiling of sorts when it came to putting out risque product.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite frank with you, I do this is going to now is about indie stuff, and we do indie things, and oftentimes we are fair though. We do at times give credit to the big five or now big four. We're not always like anti big four here, but you have to give them a little credit for that, having that insight, saying, you know what, if we have this side of it, we have to have this side of it, and kind of push, I mean, so they deserve a little credit for seeing that aspect of it. I think that's impressive, because you always hear the horror stories about how they're very inclusive, that they're very exclusive. They're not inclusive at all, and typically, and that's not always the case.
And in a manner of speaking, it's still kind of reverted back. Because like I said, we enjoyed that renaissance for about maybe 4 years tops, and then 2016 showed up, and that whole first iteration deal of what happened during that time, and it just really kind of rolled the wheels back in terms of, okay, yeah, y'all had your fun. Now it's time to put you back in the box.
Now, so you took a little break and now you're back. Are you're full tilt? Is this a series that's gonna continue on forward? Do you have more books planned? Where are you at right now with what you're currently putting out there?
Man, give me a break. I've got a lot in my. I've got a lot going on. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. Yeah, I've got one book at a time type of no. Awesome. Right now, I'm in the middle of the Phenom Chronicles is planned as a duology, but I did leave the second book as an open-ended, not necessarily a cliffhanger. It was a happy for now type of situation, which I've learned with regard to happy for now endings, it gives the reader a satisfaction of, we saw what happened with the original story arc, and we got the ending that we needed with regard to that, but you left some other things out that we need to talk about.
So what about this character, right?
So it kind of, it was like, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and I'm like, I had to learn that art real quick, because cliffhangers were they weren't as frowned upon back then as they are now. Like, they'll kill you for it now. Oh my gracious. But back then they were kind of more understanding, because they felt like there would be another book coming eventually.
Sure.
Before we started getting into this microwave society nonsense, but that's another story for another day. As far as Sageborn is concerned, Sageborn is a planned trilogy. I am actually planning to just do 3 books on that series. As far as that is, there will be a beginning and an end. There will not be anything left to interpretation or imagination. As far as that series is concerned, that was something that has been on me. It's pretty much been on my heart for a good long minute, in terms of how I wanted a Black teenage boy to be presented, as far as their ability to harness and perform magic. In a sense, there was an original iteration where he was. I won't say he was necessarily mystical in the manner of speaking, but he had the ability to. It was almost to a point where it was really more lycanthropic than anything else. But I didn't absolutely buy into that whole thing, and it just didn't come out right. So I was able to secure the rights back to that original work. Put it back together the way that I had originally intended, and re-release.
Nice. They say you can't go home again, but that's not necessarily true, I guess.
Oh no! Depending on how it goes, and sometimes it's just a matter of higher powers involved kind of help paved the way to make things, work in your favor, so to
I
speak.
love that.
So I truly believe that, and I just worked on the simple fact of this was the way that it was supposed to happen, and I'm going to roll with it.
Nice. All right, Shakir, tell everybody where they can find these wonderful books of yours and yourself, and we'll look forward to seeing you in October. So tell everybody where they can find you.
Everything is at home at ShakirRashaan.com. You can find literally everything at home. All of my social media contacts. If you want to get in contact with me directly, all of the things. I have a media kit for anybody that's interested in terms of other interview opportunities and that type of thing. And yeah, that's really where it is. It can still be, the books can still be obviously purchased everywhere else that books are sold. And that's really what it is. But buy it from me at home, and I can sign it and send it.
Or go buy it and come see us in October at Multiverse and get it signed there.
That part too.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you, Shakir, so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It was a wonderful conversation. And thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been a wonderful episode of Spotlight on Multiverse, and we'll be back next Monday with another one. Until then, remember that it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Right. Thank you much.